What makes a deal, a sub-2 deal, a creative finance deal, a great deal? I get asked that question a lot. How do I evaluate a deal? How do I know if this really is a deal? I mean, someone will give me a deed, but should I take it? What makes a good deal a deal? That's what we're talking about today on the Sub2 Deals Show. Hey, Sub2ers, welcome to this episode of the Sub2 Deals Show, where we talk about all things subject to and creative finance. Occasionally, we talk about other real estate investing topics, but it's always something that'll help you with your real estate investing business. If you're watching our show today on YouTube, we're going to ask you to subscribe to our channel. We release several videos a week. Different tips about real estate that can help you with your business, all absolutely free. So subscribe and hit that bell, get a notification anytime we release a new video. And if you're looking for the absolute best, most affordable real estate training on the planet, join us at $7 coaching. Whether you're a wholesaler, the market's changing. So wholesale deals may not be what they used to be. Whether you're trying to learn the creative side of things, or whether you're just trying to explore whether or not creative finance and Sub2 is something that you want to do, you can learn all about it without spending a ton of money. $7 a month. So check us out over there at $7 coaching. So today we're talking about what makes a deal a deal. For new investors, that's a question that they have to learn. We run into students that say, hey, I ran into somebody that's open to subject to, but how do I know if this is really something that I want to take on? And that's important, because some people will tell you that if someone will give you a deed, you should take it. And that's not always the case. There are a lot of things that could be wrong. A lot of things that could be wrong with the house, the wrong type of house, the wrong location. The numbers are important from a cash flow standpoint. Can you make money? That's what's important. I like to tell my students, the most important element of any deal is certainty. Are you going to make money? Is there no doubt that you'll make money? Because I'm telling you, if there's a question about whether you'll make money, we used to have a saying in the restaurant business, if there is a question, there is no question. The answer is no. Don't make someone else's problem your problem. So you want to make sure that you get in the right house. Now, I'm going to share with you guys the most important components of a deal to me, and I'll share those in the order of importance as far as I'm concerned. Now, this may not fit you and what you're looking for, and that's okay. But I've been doing this for 23 years, and what I've learned over the years is some things carry more importance than others. So this is how I rate things. First of all, the first thing I look at is the cost of acquisition. That's what I call it. That's all of the expenses that you're going to have to make this deal happen. And that can be a lot of different things. That can be making up back payments on houses in foreclosure, paying back taxes on houses that are about to go to the tax auction, equity that you have to pay out up front to your seller, repairs that you may have to make, agents' commissions, if a realtor brings you this deal, anything that you've got to open your wallet for or write a check for to get the deed to this property is cost of acquisition. So that's my first number. Now, typically what we do these days, and we buy strictly buy them subject to. That's all we do. We don't deviate from that. We don't ever pay cash for properties anymore. We don't use bank financing. So we're always looking for something that we can get into whenever possible, covered by our buyer's down payment. So a good example of that would be, let's say that I have a seller call me with a house that's worth $300,000. Maybe they owe $290,000. They just bought the house 6 months ago. Now they're getting divorced. Now they need to sell it. And they just want to walk away from it. So they owe $290,000. The house is worth $300,000, and they're willing to walk away. There's no cost involved there. The only cost I'll have are some closing costs, any little fix up to the property that it may need. And we also don't buy houses that need work. So other than maybe cleaning the carpets, if it takes more than say $5,000 to make this happen, we're not too interested in it generally. So in a case like that, it's a slam dunk. It's a no-brainer on that issue. Our buyer will bring $25,000 or $30,000 for down payment. Now, let's say that our seller had $20,000 in equity that they demanded up front. Would it still work that way? Well, yeah, it would, because we could give our seller 20. We could make any minor fix up, clean up things to the property happen and pay closing costs and have between 20 and 25,000 in cash in it, which we would easily recoup from our buyer. Well, that makes perfect sense. Now, what if the seller had 30,000 in equity or 35? Would it still work? Maybe we would have to leave, 5, 10, 15,000 in the deal. But if the deal met all the other criteria, that might be worth doing. So we'll run through the list on the rest of those as well. But the number one thing that I look at is the cost of acquisition. What's it going to cost me to get into this thing? I don't want to tie up a lot of money for a long time, because remember, if you don't have anything in a deal, you can't lose anything. So that's number one. Number two that we're looking at is the term. How long do we have to get out of this thing? For years and years and years, I never made a single promise to a seller on when I would have something paid off. If I was taking over payments on Joe's property and he said, well, how long is this going to take you to get this done? I would say, well, Joe, you've got 28 years left on your loan. It may take 28 years. I can't make you any promises that way. As soon as our buyer's ready to refinance, we'll get you taken out. But in the meantime, all I can promise you is on-time payments and that we'll handle everything until it's done. If you can live with that, we can do business. And if they refuse to do that, oh, no, I absolutely can't do that. I have to have this wrapped up in a year or 2 years or 3 years. We just wouldn't do the deal. I don't like to put that type of pressure on myself to get something done. The market is unpredictable. You don't know what'll be happening in 2 years or 3 years. Will you be able to get it refinanced? What if your buyer doesn't purchase? What if they don't refinance? What happens then? Well, you've broken a promise to Joe. You have to go back to him and renegotiate and hope he'll play along. Maybe he's angry about it. He's been trying to buy a house and he's having trouble because that loan's still out there. And you just don't want to create those kinds of situations. Will we do a balloon? Yes, we will, reluctantly. But the absolute minimum that we're even going to consider, that's going to be 5 years. So if they won't go 5 years, again, we just can't do the deal. And we don't like to do that very often. It's got to be a home run in every other way. So the next thing we look at is term, cost of acquisition, and then term. The next thing we look at is cash flow. We absolutely want to make money every month, and our minimum that we'll take a deal on for is $300 a month. Now, is that variable? Well, it could be. If the house was super nice, if it was a $300,000 house, they wanted no cash, it needed nothing, I had a ready buyer with $30,000, would we take $30,000 on the front end and go $200 a month on the cash flow? Possibly. Remember, all of these things are slightly movable, but as a rule, that's what we're looking for. We want $300 a month minimum. We shoot for 4 to 5. That's what we're looking for. Again, these are all the things that I look for. If you're looking for something a little different, that's okay. What I will tell you about cash flow is what I see happening a lot lately, which I think is really dangerous, is students or other people's students taking on deals that want cash flow as a seller finance property, and they want cash flow as a rental. But they take them on anyway with the intent of using them as an Airbnb. Well, that's great. And when you can keep your Airbnb fully rented and you're cash flowing $3,000 a month or some astronomical number like that, and I don't doubt it. I mean, Jody and I have been staying in Airbnbs for a year now, and I know some of these guys make a ton of money. The house we're in right now rents for $300 a night. So, I mean, you're looking at $9,000 a month for the property. And I happen to know, because of course I've got PropStream and I've looked it up, his payments are $1,400 a month. I mean, he's got taxes and insurance on top of that and other expenses, but he still makes a ton of money every month on a $300 a night rental. Now, the question is, how many nights a year does he keep it rented? Okay. And, I've had several conversations with Airbnb people in the last few months about the abundance of Airbnbs now, and also the regulations that a lot of places are bringing down on those things. I've got a student that had several Airbnbs in a state a couple of years ago, and they just decided overnight there would be no more. He had to convert all of those to rentals. Now, what if all of those houses would only cash flow as an Airbnb? Well, he'd have been in trouble. So don't make Airbnb your only exit strategy. If I'm looking at a sub-2 deal, of course, I'm looking at it to seller finance, but I also want to know, will it cash flow as a rental? If it, rental is our distant plan B, but you've got to have a plan B in this business, because what if the first thing doesn't work out? Let's say that I buy that $300,000 house. It's got a $290,000 mortgage balance. It cash flows $400 a month as an owner finance deal, and it would cash flow $300 to $400 as a rental. Well, let's say that a year from now, the market tanks, the house loses 30% of its value. Now, all of a sudden, it's only worth $200,000. Okay. And I had it sold for $3,000, and my buyer says, hey, this house is underwater. I'm out. Well, I can't resell that house for $300,000. So my only option there is a rental. So you want to double check and make sure that those things will cash flow for you in a secondary way. And Airbnb is not going to be the only way that it should work. I think that's dangerous, so don't do it. The fourth thing that we look at is price. It's very distant. It's way down the list. And the reason why is that, like I said, the market can change. Prices fluctuate. Houses are worth different amounts of money. And that's okay as long as it'll cash flow for you as a rental or with seller finance. I had a question the other day about how do you know when a short sale is the way to go instead of a sub-2? And I said, well, that depends on your intent. If your intent is to live in the house, could you pay $300,000 for a $200,000 house? Well, sure you could, as long as the payments were good, you could afford it, and you love the house. Why do you care? Well, nobody wants to overpay, but if it's going to be your home, it doesn't really matter. If you're going to rent that property out, do you care if you owe $300 and it's worth $200? If you cash flow $500 a month? If you're going to hold it for a long-term rental, what difference does it make? Now, if your intent is to flip it or sell it with seller financing, obviously those things won't work. But there are scenarios in just about any case that will. So price is way down the list for me. It doesn't really matter depending on what you want to do. Number 5 is location. We have a very specific model that we use. We're looking for houses within 30 minutes of a major metro area. Farther out than that, it's been proven to me time and time again, it gets a little bit more difficult to find a buyer. You may have to hold that house for 3 months or more while you search for a buyer. So location, for that reason, it needs to be convenient to shopping, convenient to work and school, and all of those things. So again, location is important, but it's the bottom tier of the things that matter. So remember, for me, cost of acquisition, how much money do I have to put in this deal to make it happen? The term, how long of financing term will my seller give me? We shoot for the full amortization of the loan, making no promises. But we will go a balloon if needed, if it's a really good deal in all the other areas, and we're fairly certain that we can get that thing turned. Cash flow is third. We're looking for a minimum $300 a month, preferred $400 to $500 a month. Price is important if you're seller financing, but not so much if you're going to live there or you're going to rent it. And then location. Those are the 5 things that to me have to be evaluated in determining whether or not I'm going to be interested in buying that property. So hope that helps in deal evaluation. Thanks for joining us today for the Sub2Deals Show. And if you get a chance, check us out. Give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. We would really appreciate that. And don't forget to subscribe to the show on YouTube. So until next time, talk to some sellers, make some offers, and buy some houses.